Howdy, boys and girls. Welcome back. It is week 9 of the college football season. There you go.
Hi, Charlie.
There's my assistant. It is week 9 of the college football season. Therefore, it is week 9 of the Carla and Crappy show. And guys, this is, you guys are aware, Carla being a Penn State person, me being an Ohio State person, this week, every season, hi buddy, it is our favorite show. It is the show that we both kind of get up for the most. And it's high. And and we figured out that Carla was going to be off for much of the season because of Ellie and maternity leave and all that stuff. There's only one person I considered to fill in for Carla this week. And that is my friend Ellie Krieg. She's a Penn State graduate, fan extraordinaire. She is a college football freak, as I am. She is the person responsible for getting me to not one but 2 whiteouts in Happy Valley. And she's just, it's like, okay, Penn State week, it's got to be Kelly. It's got to be. And it is Penn State week. And here's Kelly. How you doing?
I'm okay. It's an absolute, this isn't Carla's bedroom, so this isn't exactly Carla's chair, but this is Carla's side of the podcast. So yes. That is an absolute honor. She leaves amazing shoes to fill. I look forward, you mentioned that we might get to hear from her a little bit later. I look forward to that.
Yes.
Hi, Carla. Love you. Mean it. We are.
Now, you are jumping into a tough situation, and we will get to last week here in a little bit. But let's start on a happier note, as we generally do. What was the best thing you saw in college football last weekend?
That Penn State's adopted little brother, Appalachian State,
yes, beat
Coastal Carolina.
Boy, that was a fun game.
It wasn't it?
I didn't see the whole thing, but I got we were doing something and I got back to see like half of the third quarter and through the end of the game. Yeah, big fun.
Yeah. We adopted Penn State as our little brother a couple seasons ago when they almost beat us. To start off the year in Beaver Stadium. And even though Penn State pulled out the win, as App State left the stadium, they got a 100,000 person standing ovation.
Nice. That
they more than deserved.
Okay.
So mad respect. And I know that Ohio State fans are rather fond of them too.
They did not get a standing ovation, whatever, that was 2007, I think, in Ann Arbor. They did. The number of people who stayed inside Ohio Stadium after our game was over to watch on the scoreboard or to watch on the TVs in the concourses.
Yeah.
And you would think that, Michigan was in our building and losing. It was awesome. So I will always have a place in my heart for Appalachian State.
I mispronounced it. I am a terrible. I think I'd Western Pennsylvania, and I would know better. Appalachian State, go Mountaineers. Other Mountaineers.
Appy works. You can do
App State.
Yeah, that also a perfectly cromulent pronunciation. I had several choices for my best thing. The Cornell Brown game was insane, and we're gonna get to that. I have another possibility that we will get to later. I think I'm gonna go with the game between Army and Wake Forest, which Wake won.
But
it was, and Wake's having an incredible season for them, and I would love to see them get through and to see a Wake Pitt ACC title game. And I would love to see Wake just hammer
Oh, that would be enjoyable.
I know you would probably like that too. But this game, 126 points, more than 1,200 total yards, and probably more passing attempts by Army in that game than they will have for the rest of this year's games combined.
Yes, that is absolutely. What does AJ call it? Pointsy?
Yeah, pointsy. It's a little pointsy. It was sometimes, AJ gets excited about a lack of defense. And it's fun. There's no question. I would hope that our future military officers have a better idea about playing defense than maybe they displayed on Saturday. But
well done.
But fun game. But boy, that was a fun game. Not the best thing that I saw, or certainly that you got to see in the bits and pieces that you got to see. Is, number one, I still hate Bert. I assume you do as well.
Oh yes. Yes.
Number two, I'm still trying to wrap my head around what happened with that game. And it's not, I mean, we've talked on the show a lot this year about what's going on with Penn State's offense. And with Clifford, I mean, God, the dude could barely walk. I don't know why he was playing, and you can address to that, but I'm baffled by Penn State's defense in that game. And not being able to stop the run. Because that, from what I had seen, that was a strength of Penn State. Maybe you have a different take on that, but go ahead.
Well, as far as the defense goes, yes, Illinois was able to run up and down the field, but the quote bend don't break defense only let up 10 points.
Yeah, yes, that's true.
Their other 10 points were overtime nonsense, and hopefully the new overtime rules are in your list of topics. If not, it's they'll be in mine.
It's on there. It's on there.
Good, because those were that overtime took a couple of years off the end of my life.
What is the single biggest issue as you watch your team this season? I mean, Clifford, Penn State's scary if Clifford is at full strength.
Yeah.
And it makes a big difference in their offense. And the defense performance this week, I'm just what is the one thing
for me, the biggest thing, and it's an insane anomaly because everyone touts that Franklin is this star recruiter, and we get these stellar recruiting classes, but at the key positions we have no depth. If to be one injury or one dropped pass away from destroying our entire season, basically every single year, is mind-numbing. Does Illinois run up and down the field if PJ Mustipher doesn't get hurt last week? I don't know. Yeah. Does Illinois run up and down the field if they don't have as good field position because Clifford wasn't hurt? I don't know. But every season Penn State does this little what if they'd caught that one pass? What if they'd got that one more first down? We're always just the way it was worded on the obligatory podcast, and I will steal their words a lot, so hopefully I reference them every time I do, is the margin of error for Penn State is razor thin. Okay. And they hang out on the wrong side of it all the time. Okay. Certainly the question about depth, got to see that in the Iowa game. When Clifford is knocked out. I don't remember the name of the backup. The kid could not have looked. Roberson. Yeah. He could not have looked more uncomfortable. One big question. And Franklin, go ahead. Franklin used these words last week, and for mind-numbing reasons, used them again this week. That Roberson 2 weeks ago was not prepared. Okay, so Roberson was not prepared. I can swallow that. Most fans have. But that he said after the Illinois game that was played after a bye, that we were not prepared for the worst team in the Big Ten is just, who is this team? And I think we talk about who Penn State fans, who we think this team is, and maybe we just need to accept that they aren't who we think they are. As I use a terrible NFL pun, they are who they thought they were. But I mean, Illinois is terrible. We were favored by 24 points.
Yes.
And that was worse than the 6-4 Iowa game that was 17 years to the day before Saturday afternoon.
Oh, okay. I was not aware of that. I was not aware.
Yeah.
Should Clifford have been playing last week? I mean, you've got a bye. You got a bye. Okay, Robeson was not prepared to play against Iowa. You've got 2 weeks.
Right.
Can you get him ready? I mean, no one's going to expect him to play the same level, but I don't feel like Clifford should have been playing.
Off the ball or get it to a couple of the tight ends, which my beloved tight end has been really disappointing this year. They have the dropsies like the wide receiving core had 2 or 3 seasons ago. It's terrible. These tight ends are supposed to be stellar. It's supposed to be the best defensive room on the team, and they are infuriating, or offensive room in the team, and they're I don't understand.
Okay.
But why was Clifford playing? It's hard to say. I wonder if the kid's in charge. Maybe Clifford said, I'm playing, and they took him at his word and let him play. And I would believe that, having watched when we went down to the Citrus Bowl a few years ago when Penn State lost to Memphis, and Trace McSorley played on less than one leg.
Yeah,
he had one broken foot and an injury on the other leg, but it wasn't broken, and there was no reason for him to be playing because his backup at the time was actually quite good. Who was his backup at the time? I'll remember later.
Okay,
but he was no Taquan Roberson. Tommy Stevens. That's right. Tommy Stevens. Yeah. And he was good. I don't understand it. I don't.
Okay.
And we could blame a lot of it on COVID, blah, 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 the transfer portal, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
And you could, because our backup quarterback, to be honest, where is he? He's playing for Kentucky and doing really quite well for himself.
Beat Florida a couple weeks ago.
Yes, he did. So I kind of hoped they would do a little better against Georgia. I didn't think he was going to beat them, but I think I expected just a little more. But as I keep texting you and telling my husband, everybody stinks except for Georgia. That's my theory, and I'm sticking with it.
Okay. Is James Franklin's time in Happy Valley up? You don't think?
No. And for a couple of reasons, I mean, the fan forums want him run out of town. They're willing to help him pack.
Oh yeah.
But we don't know how to move on from a coach. We've only done it twice in my lifetime because the first one died and the second one went to the NFL. Let me correct, the first one was fired and then died.
Yeah.
And I don't know that there aren't very many, probably, any Penn State fans alive that remember what happened before, that were alive before Joe Paterno. We don't know how to move on after coach. We don't know how to start over. We're not okay with change. So everybody says fire Franklin. Tell me, who out there is better? Who do you want instead? And are you okay with half of his recruiting classes going with him? Fire Franklin sounds great. It's all literal and everything. But after he's fired, what's next? Do you really think that's okay? We're going to start over again? Because we've been starting over since 2011, and I really don't want to do it anymore. If
you think that he should stay.
Mhm.
There's possibility, and I don't know. There was a thing today that you pointed out to me about him changing agents.
Changing agents. Why would you do that?
So,
Mhm.
I mean, it sounds like it's at least a possibility
Mhm.
that he might move on of his own volition.
You might.
And SC is the job that he's mentioned in tandem with all the time.
Yeah, but LSU's open now too.
LSU's
So,
open too, and you heard. I know
he
you heard
would-
Tyler. I know you heard Tyler last week.
I did
and
hear Tyler last
first
week, but I don't
choice would
think
be-
Franklin could cut it in the SEC.
I
They
don't-
would eat him alive.
He had winning seasons at Vanderbilt in the SEC, though.
Well,
I mean,
yeah, they
he is
fired
aware.
Ogeron 2 years after a national championship. I mean, there were extenuating some circumstances.
Yes.
I understand that. But
a few.
yes, Franklin now has Saban's agent. He's no Saban. He's just, well, nobody is. But nah, he's not. Maybe he'll leave of his own. And if that's the case, then it shows. It shows that he lost his room.
Mhm.
He lost his locker room probably about 3 weeks ago,
Mhm.
Maybe 2.5 weeks ago. And if that's the case, then he better go. If he wants to go, he should go, because otherwise, and if he's going to stay, he needs to get his locker room back because he's lost it.
Okay. If he goes,
Mhm.
I will do the same thing for you that I did for Tyler and put you in charge of the search committee. Who's the first person you're calling?
Craig Schiano.
Okay.
But I don't see him leaving Rutgers right now. But when they were searching for Franklin, when they were searching for Bill O'Brien, there's a short list of former Penn State players and former Penn State assistants. Is Schiano the one that they ran out that Tennessee wanted? And there was the whole thing where they wrote the story on the Rock about how he was connected to Sandusky and thus he had to go.
Yes.
Yeah. Then he's the top of my list. Or
he was mixed up in all that fun stuff in Tennessee.
Or you go over and get Luke Fickle.
No,
I don't know that there's
I'm holding Luke Fickle in reserve for when Ryan Day leaves.
Ooh. Or you beg, borrow, and steal.
Yes.
And get Larry Johnson to come home.
Boy, that'd be a good one.
Yeah.
He is. He's good.
I know.
And
you would know. You stole him.
Yes, we did. That's a great choice. That really would be. And if you're gonna take a shot at someone who's never been a head coach, I'd still feel really confident in his ability. That would be a killer hire. Okay. Well, we have that problem solved.
Cool.
The last thing I want to ask you before we move on to AJ.
Yeah.
New overtime rules. We agreed when they were going on, because we were texting and it's like, okay, it's made it more tense. That is for sure. And there's no on the player safety, and yeah, that's fine.
I understand the player safety argument, though that argument crashed and burned on Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think the rules have the potential to be perfect. They should be great for what they need. How our offense needed 9 attempts to go 3 yards and still couldn't do it, except the one time, and it didn't matter. I have no idea. We have no offensive line. We haven't forever. In theory, on paper, these rules are great. On Saturday, these rules possibly caused a few heart attacks in Pennsylvania. They were terrible.
Yeah.
They were terrible. But I mean, I feel bad judging the overtime rules when Penn State deserved to lose that game in regulation. So that we now have the longest and worst game in college football history. It's just, I mean, when Penn State lays an egg, they lay a gigantic egg. They break it, they roll in it, and they set it on fire. And that's what they did.
I as I thought about it, I loved, and I've said this over and over and over, that the college overtime beats the hell out of the NFL's overtime all day, every day, and it still does. I feel like you're taking too much of the actual game out of overtime when you're starting, when you've got one play from the 3 over and over and over and over again. I've always liked the idea that, you still have to run an offense, and you still have to actually play defense and not just like a goal line thing. And it can, we can go to there's puppies back there.
That's Tasha. Yeah, both my puppies are back there. I saw Tasha and I wondered what she was in the process of doing, which she likes to find any garbage, a tissue, a scrap of paper, a tag from new clothes that got discarded on the floor, and she will shred them into more pieces than you ever thought imaginable and leave them everywhere. So when I saw her back there, I was like, what you shred?
What are you doing? What are you doing?
What am I going to have to clean up later?
I think this approach, especially so early in the process, it just leaves the door open for kind of like fluky results, which I don't like. I would prefer, we can still do the thing where, so like after 3 overtimes, no more field goals. You got to go for a touchdown. And if you make the touchdown, you got to go for 2. There's still variables in there. There's still the yellow, that sort of stuff will keep the game shorter, and that ultimately that's the goal, right? But just that doesn't feel like football to me.
No. And they changed the rules to shorten the games for player safety, and ended up with the longest game in history.
Yes, that's fabulous. That is
good job, guys. You had one job.
AJ has in the context of the Carla and Crappy show, AJ has many jobs actually, and he does all of them well. But the one that we rely on the most is AJ's weekly foray into the Group of 5 / Pac-12 After Dark. And AJ is going to tell us right now what is coming up this week. AJ, go.
Hello, boys and girls. It is this week's Group of 5 After Dark report. We're going to start on Thursday. Troy at Coastal Carolina. Troy having an okay season. Coastal Carolina coming off their first loss in like a calendar year plus. They did not lose last season. They had not lost this season, and they got whomped pretty good by App State. That might be because their equipment truck got turned around sideways trying to figure out how to get to the stadium. But I expect Coastal to bounce back and get a big win on Thursday night. Friday, Nevada's playing UNLV, so on 10 p.m. on the CBS Sports Network. So if you would like to watch Carson Strong ball out once again, you may do that. That's pretty much the entire midweek. We're going to start on Saturday. There's a lot of big-name games, and I will talk about the games that are not big-name games because it is 2 states that are bordering each other, and they're playing on Saturday night. No one knows why they're doing that, nor should they. But at noon, we have to start with Big Ten football because Rutgers is playing Illinois. Illinois coming off their grossest, most disgusting thing I've ever seen. And listen, I love not good football, but the Penn State-Illinois game was disgusting. Illinois playing Rutgers, in case you want to watch that. I guess that's at noon. We're going to scroll down in the, I believe it was in the MAC. 3 p.m. FS1, Washington State at Arizona State. That's definitely not the MAC. That's the Pac-12. That's at 3:30 on FS or 3 o'clock on FS1. Arizona State favored by 15.5. Washington State coming off of firing their coach. Thought they might, rally. They did not. They got stomped. Arizona State, good but suspect. So this could be fun. This could be a fun game to watch at 3 p.m. on FS1. Also, at 3 p.m., my beloved Hawaii Rainbow Warriors playing at Utah State. Utah State favored by 5.5. Hawaii normally not good when leaving the Big Island. But this is your chance to watch Hawaii football and not stay up until the middle of the night. Otherwise, we have a whole lot of games that have a lot of big name power, but not a lot of big name sort of things. Florida State's playing Clemson this week. Don't watch that game. It's not good. This is not the name brand game you think it is. Don't watch that game. 3:30 p.m. on ESPN Plus. ULM at App State. ULM was not good last year. They were one of the demonstrably worst teams in 2020. They fired their coach. They hired Terry Bowden, and it did not look like it was going to get better. ULM is 4-3 with 2 very winnable games before the end of the season. ULM could go bowling. This will not be one of the games to help them. I expect App State to win by a lot. This will not be close. But it is an opportunity to see ULM play on television. 7 p.m. on ESPN, the one SEC game you should absolutely watch, Ole Miss Auburn. Who knows what could happen here? Roll the dice. This is the Auburn Chaos Generator is here. The Ole Miss Chaos Generator is here. And we might rip a hole in the space-time continuum. Watch this game. This is at 7 p.m. Also at 7 p.m., Kentucky at Mississippi State. You want to watch a team that loves to run the ball and not really throw the ball that much against a team that loves to throw the ball and not run the ball very much? You should watch this game. That's on the SEC Network. UK favored by 1.5. Also at 7 p.m., Kansas at Oklahoma State. Can Kansas pull off what they couldn't against Oklahoma in Stillwater? Unlikely, but possible. Kansas is 1-6 this year. Are they good? Not really. But they seem to be much more game this year. They seem to be much more with it. They don't seem like they're just going to roll over in a lot of their games. In fact, Kansas, even though they are 1-6, they've gotten blown out in most of them, except for the Oklahoma game, which that score was way closer than the game led on. Never mind. Kansas, continue being Kansas. You're not going to beat Oklahoma State. Also at 7 p.m., SMU at Houston. This is an AAC title game sort of scenario. SMU coming in undefeated. Houston looking better than most expected. A lot of people watched Houston kind of quit on Dana in 2020. They've come back around. They're 6-1. They're looking great. That's on ESPN2. Houston, a 1-point favorite. This should be pointsy and stupid and fun. The fun index on this game is 62.5. So yes, you should watch this game. Also at 7 p.m., on the Pac-12 network, Oregon State at Cal. Oregon State should coast in this game. Cal is very, very bad. But for whatever reason, Oregon State's favored by 1.5 and not more. Also at 7 p.m., Arizona at USC. Does the corollary hold true? This is the true test of the USC is ass at home corollary. Can they beat Arizona, who is... It's tied between them and UConn as to who is the worst team in FBS. And honestly, I'd probably give the nod to UConn, seeing as they lost by 17 to UMass and barely beat an FCS team. But Arizona actually lost to an FCS team, so I don't know how to call this. Also at 7 p.m., Boise State at Colorado State on the Network of Champions, CBSSN. Boise State looking real suspect. Colorado State, what were you doing on that last play? I'm putting that entirely on the special teams coach underneath Steve. Oh, right. Steve Adazio thought he could be smart and save money and didn't hire a special teams coach and lost a game because of it. Don't hire Urban Meyer's friend. Steve Adazio sucks. I hope Boise wins by 50. Also, 7:30 p.m., North Carolina at Notre Dame. This game looked really cool on paper to start the season, looks really trash now. I expect Notre Dame to coast. Also at 7:30 p.m., Louisville at NC State. NC State looked promising after beating Clemson. That win looks much more suspect now than it did when they beat Clemson. Those are all the games you should be watching instead of Penn State-Ohio State. Do not watch Penn State-Ohio State. You do not have to perceive this. Let Carla and Crappy and Kelly have their fun, have their giggles, but literally don't watch that game because there are so many other better games on. That is this week's report. There are some other I'm sorry. I almost forgot the banger of all bangers tonight. Fresno State at San Diego State at 10:30 on CBS SN, the network of champions like God himself intended. Oh my God, I forgot. Oh man, I'm going to have to stay up late this week. We also have UCLA at Utah at 10 p.m. on ESPN. Listen, there's way better games on than trying to watch a Big Ten football game on national television. Don't do that. Watch all of the other games. Don't watch Penn State-Ohio State. Don't listen to Carla and Crappy and Kelly and all of their silliness around Penn State-Ohio State. That's a regional game at best. Don't do that. Eat the whole hog. Look for the stupid. There's plenty of stupid available. Hey, you know what could be really stupid? UMass at Liberty. Sure. Hey, this has been your report. We will see you next week. Bye.
Thank you, AJ. We before we get started on the Big Red Report, and I was neglectful in not asking you. That appears to be a lovely glass of wine that you're drinking. What are you drinking specifically?
This is a red wine that was purchased specifically for cooking, and I don't cook with anything that I won't drink. It's a very important rule.
Yeah, I think so.
It's just from Giant Eagle, so it couldn't be that fancy. But it's called Apothic Red, and it's just a red, dark red, dry red blend.
Yeah, we've had that in our house, and we like it a lot.
I bought it specifically for a recipe of, I'm going to mangle this because I've never taken French beef bourguignon.
But I know exactly what you mean. That's not how it's pronounced. I can't do it either, so that's fine.
You knew what I meant, though.
Yeah, I do. the beefy thing with the wine and the vegetables and it just sort of dissolves, and it's absolutely awesome.
So good. And I made it in my Instapot, so it was done in a fraction of the time.
Nice. That's always a bonus. I'm drinking Wheelhouse.
What are you drinking?
Baltic Porter from Wolf's Ridge Brewing in Columbus, Ohio.
Nice.
If you are in Columbus and are looking for beer and food, Wolf's Ridge, the restaurant they run in the brewery is excellent, and it would be excellent just by itself. And then it helps that the beer is very, very good too. So
please send me a text with that, because I have to be in Columbus for work on Friday. 90% chance. And so I will take all the Penn State stuff off my car and I will drive into enemy territory.
You'll
to do
be
my job.
fine. You don't have to take the Penn State stuff off your car.
No, it's not like driving into Oakland.
No. Before we move on to our big games, we're gonna check in with the Big Red Report.
Yes.
If I didn't have not been doing these weekly things about Cornell football, this game probably would have been the best thing I saw last weekend. Both teams, they went in with identical records, not so good. Brown came away with the win. The score was 49-45. This game was insane.
Also pointy.
Yeah. I think Cornell had killed 4 drives by Brown with interceptions. They found offense, granted against a defense that's shaky, but it just up and down, a lot of fun. AJ was not home, so I don't think he got a chance to actually to see this or see much of it anyway. But unfortunately, there's the loss. It left Cornell at the bottom of the Ivy League. It left my nephew with no additional carries. He did get his. He did get his special teams time. But the scary thing is that on Friday in Ithaca, Princeton comes to town. Princeton is first place in the Ivy League.
Ooh.
So we are hopeful that the fact that my sister and my brother-in-law, Drew's parents, are going to their very first Cornell game. So maybe with that motivation, the whole team will band together and beat the Tigers, and it'll be the upset of the century in the Ivy League. Or maybe not, but we're just hoping Drew gets a couple more carries. That would be cool.
For his mom's birthday.
Yes. There are ranked on ranked games this week that we're not paying attention to. And I don't care. Because you are here, because Kelly is with us, we're sticking to Big Ten because it's just what we do. And so we have 3 games. I wanted to check to see is Aidan going to be picking any of these?
He can pick. I will have him come upstairs.
Okay, we're gonna take a brief pause, and when we come back, we'll have a special guest picker, maybe.
Yes.
Okay, guys, we're back. I appreciate your patience there. We have not only Kelly, but the other person in her house who is a really big fan of the show is Aidan. Aidan was name checked a couple times last season, at least once, a couple times.
You asked me a question of who's gonna win an Ohio State game, and I said Ohio State.
And inevitably, you were correct. So that's a good thing. We like that. And I'm going to ask you to pick that game too, but we're going to do a couple other games first. We're going to start. Big Nude is arguably now probably the game in the conference this week. And it would be because both of our teams have losses. Number 6 Michigan at number 8 Michigan State. Michigan is favored on the road by 4.5 points. The AJ Fun Index is an ambitious 50. 50. And folks, if you weren't with us last week, we designated the over/under number as the official AJ Fun Index. So it's the same thing, and 50 feels like it's a lot for this one. Aidan, do you have what is your feeling about Michigan at Michigan State?
You are choosing between the Michigan Wolverines, who wear maize and blue, which is yellow and blue,
ugliest
or
helmets ever.
The Michigan State Spartans, who wear green and white. They are both ranked in the top 10. And they're both undefeated.
I personally favor Michigan, but I know Michigan State's gonna win.
Ooh.
Okay.
That's fair.
I'm all right. We're gonna have to talk about the favoring Michigan thing at some point, but we're not going to do that now. Kelly, what do you see about this one?
This is going to be ugly because everything Michigan is good at defending, Michigan State is bad at. So it doesn't really, is good at. Like they Michigan State is terrible at passing. Well, that's okay because Michigan has a terrible pass defense. Like I can't wait to play each of these because it's entirely possible that Penn State team that showed up against Illinois 3 days ago could beat them both. So I'm cheering for the stadium to burn to the ground, but I can't have that. So what I want more than anything,
it's all concrete block. You couldn't burn it.
I want Michigan State to win. No, wait. I want Michigan to win because I want Michigan to come in to play Penn State high. Because if Michigan plays Penn State with a chip on their shoulder, they have more chance of beating us. So I want them to come into Penn State inflated so that we can deflate them. I have a funny feeling. Yeah, Michigan is going to win this one.
Okay.
It's going to be ugly. The score is going to be something stupid, like a couple of prime numbers under 20.
Okay.
It's going to be stupid and not pointsy. And you're going to look at the box score and wonder, how on earth did they get to that? Yeah. That's what I don't know the exact number. Let's say, what do you want to say? 17-19? Yeah, 17-19.
Okay. That sounds good.
What you got?
In East Lansing,
Mhm.
Mel Tucker is way ahead of schedule.
Mhm.
He has
Right.
put together an excellent defense, physical, balanced offense.
Mhm.
It's a very good team. In Ann Arbor, Jim Harbaugh is years behind schedule. But this year, let's give him credit. Improved defense, physical, balanced offense.
Yes.
This is a good team. You
Mhm.
guys will note that I said the same thing about both teams.
You did.
And that's, they are statistically dead even.
Right.
They and it's difficult to make a determination there about how this should go, but there are a couple things that I want you to be aware of. Michigan State's played a tougher schedule to this point to get to the same record.
Mhm.
And there is exactly zero pressure on Mel Tucker right now.
That's
Again,
true.
because he is so far ahead of schedule.
That's what Nicole Auerbach said on her Power Hour. Thank you for all these podcast recommendations, by the way, that this is Michigan's game to lose.
It is. And Harbaugh just he's demonstrated since he showed up in Ann Arbor that he puckers when he plays, when he's playing one of his rivals. I think he's won one of those games through the years. Until he does it and does it consistently, I mean, everything demonstrates to me that Michigan will not win this game. Because Jim Harbaugh does not win these games. So
I chose Michigan to win, yet I have no basis with which to argue with you.
Okay.
It's exactly that ugly.
I know, ugly. You want to talk ugly? Also at noon on Saturday. Not nude, just noon this time. Number 9 Iowa at Wisconsin. The Badgers are favored by 3. This is I hesitate to even attach AJ's name to this. The AJ Fun Index is 36.5 points. So Aidan, we will start with you. We have Iowa Hawkeyes. You are familiar with them from a few weeks ago. We have the Wisconsin Badgers.
You hate them. Yeah, we hate them.
I don't blame you.
We hate Iowa. We don't hate Wisconsin. We have a healthy respect for Wisconsin.
I think it's gonna be a hilarious score because they're pretty much on the same level. They're both terrible.
They're not terrible.
Okay.
Sweetheart. They're actually really very good.
But they're not good.
Okay.
That's what's
if
you say remarkable
that way, actually.
you can say
Alabama.
Yeah, Alabama and Georgia. See, I told you, everybody stinks except Georgia.
Right.
Yeah.
So Aidan, who are you? Are you picking Wisconsin?
I want Wisconsin to win.
But
okay.
Quickly.
And they're gonna win.
Okay.
Okay. There's one for Wisconsin. Kelly, what do you think?
I'm also going to go with Wisconsin, but again, the score is going to be stupid. It's going to be low. It's going to be Big Ten football. It's going to be defense. If I just do the math and straight up compare them, Penn State should have beaten Iowa. Penn State did beat Wisconsin.
Yes.
But Wisconsin is climbing, and Iowa, I don't even know what they're doing right now. They're just hanging out in just they're just beating Iowa. I don't even know if they're
Iowa's doing what Iowa does.
Whoever wins this game wins the West. This is the West Championship game.
I think so.
For all intents and purposes, this is the West Championship game, and it's going to Wisconsin.
And the Heartland Trophy, by the way, which is
I'm going to get water.
You go get water, but it's important. Wait,
I'll try to talk long enough.
There's only a couple of games left. Then you can go get water.
Yeah, all right.
You'll be fine.
It's not. I mean, the Heartland Trophy is not as iconic as Floyd of Rosedale, but still, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
I don't think it's possible to come up with a more Big Ten-y game
Right?
than this. It's going to be a chilly day in Madison, and it's just all. And these two teams in particular, there is no flash here. Wisconsin does not. I think Wisconsin is kind of recovering from a really rough start.
Yes.
They are hamstrung by Graham Mertz, freakishly talented, and just makes stunningly poor decisions. Iowa has no stars. It just has gigantic farm boys. And
Graham
these
Mertz
two
is
teams,
but it doesn't matter because Iowa has a big defense. I mean,
these two teams are just going to beat each other to death.
Yes. One of their punters will be next week's special teams player of the week.
Right. The survivor, I want to say Wisconsin, and they certainly have the advantage of playing at Camp Randall, which is always that is a tough place.
Yeah.
But I feel like Iowa is I guess the team of destiny in the Big Ten West this year, if you can go that far. So I feel like I
exaggerated enough for you.
I think Iowa will come out of this game with the win. First team to 15 points, whatever how that's going to go. It's going to be rough. And then we have at 7:30 Saturday, a game that I will attend. Number 20 Penn State at number 5 Ohio State. The Buckeyes are favored by 18.5 points. AJ Fun Index of 60. Before we get to you guys, and Kel mentioned this a little bit earlier. Very special surprise pick for this game. We can't call her a guest because her name's in the damn title of the show. Here is Carla, and the newest member of the Carla and Crappy family, Ellie, with a couple thoughts about how this is going to go. Carla, go ahead.
Hi, friends. You knew I wasn't going to sit this week out, didn't you? It's only the biggest week of the year on the Carla and Crappy show, Penn State-Ohio State week. And so I thought this was a great opportunity to pop in real quick and say hello, and to introduce you all to Miss Ellie. I hope you're watching the video. Ellie is sitting here with me. She's a little sleepy. We just ate. But also to say, before I get into the game, to say a quick thank you to everyone who's reached out on Twitter or Facebook, or I've heard from a lot of people, and it's been really great welcoming Ellie into the CNC show fold. And I also want to thank Crappy for keeping things going, AJ for his regular segments that have been awesome this year, and for jumping in to guest host twice, and to all the rest of the guest hosts who've done an amazing job filling in. It's been a lot of fun listening to the show as a viewer and a listener, as opposed to as a host on the show. It's been a lot of fun. Yes, I'm keeping up with what you all are saying. Particularly, I want to thank Kelly, who's hosting this week, because she was nice enough to send us our first Penn State gear. On Saturdays, we wear white. Miss Ellie will be wearing this on Saturday for sure. So thank you, Kelly. We appreciate it. Okay, so yeah, the game. So blissfully, I missed most of last week's game. I was a little preoccupied. But yeah, I was a lot more excited for this week before that game than I am now. Lots of concerns, right, heading into this as a Penn State fan. The fact that Penn State couldn't stop the run against an Illinois team that you should be able to stop. The fact that Penn State couldn't run the ball on offense, the two huge concerns going up against an Ohio State team that's got a pretty potent rushing attack, as we all know, and a great offensive line. And this is gonna be a tough ask. And so I think the mindset that as a Penn State fan you have to have here is that it's tough to play on the national scale when you have a loss to Illinois, right? And I think settling into that realization that that's going to be a big thing to try to overcome. So the best role you can play here is spoiler. Heading into this gauntlet of the Big Ten East round robin that we're going to play over the next several weeks, Penn State's role here is to upset the apple cart. That's really the role that they have to play. And if they can get into that mindset to know that they can just disrupt a bunch of things, it could be really fun. If they play like they did last week against Illinois, it could be a really long Saturday for Ellie and me. But as Crappy said a couple weeks ago on the show, here on the CNC show, we pick with our hearts and not our heads. So of course, I'm gonna back the blue and white on Saturday and root for a Penn State win. Ellie, can you give me a we are? We are? No? Still have some work to do on that front. Good to see you all. I'll be back on the show really soon. But enjoy the football this weekend, and we'll catch up again later. Cheers.
Carla, thank you so much for that. It is awesome that we got to hear from you this week, of course, and awesome to see Ellie. I'm sure she will find her lungs in time for maybe next year's whiteout when Ohio State goes to Penn State. We'll work on that. We'll work on that. Aidan,
remember what you told me in the car on the way home from school? You had so many thoughts about this game. Remember?
So let's hear them. Penn State at Ohio State.
Tries hard. Go ahead. Take you're in charge, man.
Go.
So I think
yes,
Ohio State
will win.
Okay.
But if Penn State brings what they've shown us before, which probably is not going to happen unless Sean Clifford is at 100% health.
Yes.
It will be a fair game if they're at their best health, but they are not right now. Yeah,
that's true.
You got a score?
So I think it will be high points Ohio State, medium points for Penn State.
Okay. That's that's probably a smart pick. And I will not argue with you. I have in my notes that that Penn State, we're starting this round robin where Penn State, Ohio State, and the Michigans all are playing each other, and it's going to be such an amazing thing. And the thing that's really cool about it is that I think any of those four teams are good enough to beat any of the other three. I'd take shots at Michigan, and maybe they are not. I'm not completely convinced about them. Penn State is good enough to win this game. The injuries are an issue certainly, but Aidan, you're exactly right. That could be a thing. Kelly, what do you think?
Well, James Franklin told us in his press conference today that Sean Clifford is 100%.
Do you
He
believe
also
him?
said he could not wait this weekend. They were 100% focused to play Illinois in the Big House. So we're not entirely sure what planet James Franklin is on. So I'm not entirely sure how Sean Clifford is doing right now. It is clear that James Franklin has not slept in a while. So
talking with his new agent.
Yes, clearly. So it will depend 100% on Sean Clifford and on whether or not James Franklin's locker room is paying more attention to Ohio State than they're paying attention to who James Franklin's agent is. And honest to goodness, James Franklin, why did you change agents this week if you want your team to focus on your 1-0 mentality of Ohio State, Ohio State, Ohio State, Ohio State? I can't imagine what he was thinking. So Ohio State is going to win this game. I love to believe otherwise. I would love to believe that like you just said, of the four teams who all have to play each other in the next three or 4 weeks. Honestly, can the Big Ten East do this every year? Because this is amazing.
Please, yes.
It's terrible, but amazing. Make it the last 3 weeks of the season. There is a dog rear end immediately behind me.
Yay.
And they're wrestling on my bed. Can those three teams play each other? 8 and 7. Those four teams play each other for the last 3 weeks of the season every year. Because that's just prime Big Ten and perfect Big Ten East football. And yes, I agree with you. Any one of the 4 teams could come out of this 3-0.
Yeah.
I don't believe any of them will come out of this 3-0. Not a single one.
Okay.
So who's going to lose to who?
Yeah.
I wish Ohio State wasn't our first one, because Penn State is incredibly streaky.
Right.
I mixed up my potato chip brands and called them the Pringles, that they can't just they can't just lose just one. I meant Lay's, but you knew what I meant.
Yes.
Penn State in for the Franklin era, they never lose just one game ever. What I shouldn't say, one time in all 8 of Franklin's years have they ever lost just one game. He has trouble rewriting the ship. He has trouble re-steering his locker room in the correct direction. He claims again this want-to-know mentality, and I don't think it works, or at least he doesn't know how it works.
Okay.
The obligatory podcast points out with Franklin over and over and over, if you have to tell everyone in every single one of your press conferences every week how detail oriented you are, maybe you're not very detail oriented. And so, Franklin needs some therapy. I don't know where he's going to get it from. He needs to get his locker room back. And if the team that showed up for the first, 14 minutes of the Iowa game shows up on Saturday, look out. It's going to be a Penn State-Ohio State game, and somebody's going to win because of a lucky bounce or a blocked field goal. A blocked field goal.
Okay.
Grant Haley will score.
No, and I agree. This game, Ohio State fans would hesitate to say Penn State is a rival and then talk about Michigan and all that stuff. The reality is, in recent history, the only team in the Big Ten East that's been able to beat Ohio State is Penn State. So that given that I live in Pennsylvania, that makes this game a huge deal for me. And you are, if I don't know what would have happened last week if Clifford had not been hurt. I texted you this. This is that Penn State would have beaten Iowa. And there is no doubt in my mind that what Aidan said, including the qualifier about injuries, Penn State's good enough to win this. Now, the thing that I told you, I had several different options as far as picking the best thing that I saw last week. I think the actual best thing I saw last week was Ohio State's offense. CJ Stroud, he does not play like a guy who's halfway through his first season as a starter. He is calm. He is accurate. The number of shaky misses seems to decline every week. The starting receivers and the guys who spell them it's the best receiver room in the country.
But
yes,
he's about to play one of the best defenses.
No. And you're right. And that's why this round robin is so interesting.
Right.
The weapons that Ohio State has, it's almost not fair, and they're going to score. But you can say the same thing about Ohio State that you can say, and recently anyway, since the loss to Oregon, you can say the same thing about Ohio State that you said about Michigan, that they haven't had a test. You get into conference play, you would think that Maryland's offense is upbeat enough that it would give Ohio State's defense a test. It didn't. Indiana, speaking of injuries, Indiana, Michael Penix is out there. Their starting corners were out last week. And then they played, I think they played 4 different quarterbacks in that game. Because the backup quarterback got knocked out too. So there, I am enough of an angsty college football fan to be nervous about this. It may be in a position, it may be a thing where Ohio State just has to outscore everybody in this game and through the rest of the season. I'm comfortable-ish with that because I think they can. But if they, against a much better defense, maybe that doesn't work out the way I want it to. I'm looking ahead here. Given the problems that Penn State had with the rushing game last week, I feel good about this.
That's
Travion Henderson is as good as a true freshman as everyone said he was. He is shaping up to be statistically the best freshman tailback in Ohio State history, and that includes Maurice Clarett, and that includes Archie Griffin, whose record he broke a couple weeks ago. Offensive line gets better every week, and if Ohio State just has to hand the ball off to him, or the guys behind him offer different looks, good change ups. I'm comfortable with this. I'm comfortable-ish saying Ohio State's going to win.
Fair.
There have been times when this game has been a blowout. I'm not sure that that's the case. We're gonna find out. What
even when Penn State is down, this game is closer than it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
More years than not.
It is. So as we start, this is a great way to kick off this round robin thing that we're going to suffer through and enjoy simultaneously.
Oh yes.
But I do think Ohio State's going to win this one, and then we will go on from there. Boys and girls, you can hear the Carla and Crappy Show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, TuneIn, and a variety of other podcasting hosts. You can watch us on YouTube and on the show's Facebook page. If you like us, please subscribe, rate, and review. Bye, Aidan. And if you don't like us, mind your own damn business. Be sure to come back next week to see how wrong I was, because Kelly's not gonna be here. We have one final thing. Kelly, what is your one final thing?
I want Penn State to stop wasting their talent. Everyone talks about how good Jahan Dotson is and how good Quan Brisker is, and they are possibly 2 top 10 draft picks next year. And we had Micah Parsons, who is unreal.
Yes.
And Pat Fryermuth, and the talent comes in, the talent goes out, it goes to the NFL, and it doesn't get what it deserves on the field. But James Franklin needs to know that Penn Staters are nicer and more tolerant than anywhere he's ever going to end up. We may call for his head, but do you know how many times we asked Paterno to retire?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He should stay. He should get his locker room back in order. He should stop sniffing or leading the fan base and the locker room, more importantly, to believe he's sniffing elsewhere every season. Again, I'm going to quote obligatory. Can USC just hire someone and keep them for longer than 17 seconds that Penn State doesn't have to do this every year?
That is definitely a thing. Yes.
I cannot wait for this round robin. I can't imagine that anybody else in college football, any other single division, let alone conference, has anything that looks like what the Big Ten East has coming up in the next 4 weeks.
Nope.
It's beautiful and ugly and wonderful and horrible. I am going to hate it while loving every minute of it. And there is no team that's going to come out of it 3-0. None. Not a one.
Okay.
And I don't think there's a single one that's going to come out of it 0-3. So
I'm hopeful that there is one, but
I know
that could be that really could be.
Oh, I would love to come out of this 3-0, but we're not gonna. So let's see who we can take down with us on the way out.
That's fair. Totally fair. My one final thing.
Please.
If you guys look, there that is not a Penn State football jersey in the background. That is a Penn State hockey jersey. Actually, Penn State hockey jersey worn by Kelly, playing club roller hockey when she was a student. At some point, we've been talking college football on Twitter and elsewhere for well over a decade.
Yes.
But it was much more recently that I realized that Kelly's actually a bigger hockey fan than she is a football fan. She doesn't want. I don't know if she wants people to know that. But so I'm outing her to the tens of Carla and Crappy show listeners.
That's right. I forgot to ask for you, and he left the room. Aidan he wants to be a YouTuber when he grows up, and
Yes.
he had a very serious question
Okay.
when I told him what we were doing tonight.
Yes.
Mom, just how many followers does Uncle Crappy have?
It depends. It totally depends on the platform.
Because he believes if you don't have something like 200,000 or more, he doesn't respect you. And this is the mind of an 8-year-old in 2021.
I understand. I do not have the Carla and Crappy show does not have 200,000 followers. So
back to hockey.
Back to hockey. We actually no conference games have been played yet. That starts this weekend, and I think Penn State and Ohio State. I think Penn State goes to Ohio State goes to Penn State next weekend, first weekend in November. So Big Ten play is coming up. Big Ten hockey, however, for all the weirdness of the COVID season and all of that stuff, that they were the class of college hockey last year. We had the Hobie Baker Award winner. I don't remember the name of the goalie from Minnesota who won the award for best goalkeeper. But I mean, Big Ten hockey, that conference that they put together in the seven teams, it is spectacular.
Yes, seven teams.
So far, Penn State is 5-1 on the year. Ohio State is 3-1. Penn State is getting votes for college hockey rankings. Ohio State is not yet, although Ohio State's been getting really good goalkeeping and scoring in the top 20 in the country. So it's going to come. Do you have who's going to win the Big Ten this year?
I want it to be Penn State, but it won't be. Last year was a huge rebuilding year for Penn State hockey. I don't think they're rebuilding anymore, but I don't think they're back to top notch yet. I think they've got a pretty good goalie, but they're not quite there. So of the 7 teams, I see them 3rd, 4th, maybe 2nd if somebody falls.
Okay.
It's Wisconsin or Minnesota. Wisconsin or Minnesota.
Okay.
Yeah. I Notre Dame would love to believe it's them in their their little fake conference, but it's not. It Minnesota. That's it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a relatively safe pick. I know.
True.
I think Michigan is tied for 2nd in scoring so far. Really young season, and that's not a surprise. That program is always going to be kind of up in that echelon. But yeah, it's hockey season, kids. And Big Ten play starts. If you don't have enough football to watch for November and into December and into January, fire up the Big Ten Network and watch some really good college hockey. I should point out, Kelly is, as she should be, as we all should be, a champion of women's sports. I should point out that the Ohio State Buckeyes women's hockey team is number 2 in the country.
Sweet.
I should point that out.
That's exciting.
It's very cool. It is really cool. Folks, Kelly, I want to thank you for being absolutely as engaging as I knew you would be for this week.
Thank you for the opportunity and the honor to pretend to be Carla.
Carla will be very flattered to hear that. Enjoy the games this
Tasha says
weekend.
hi.
It's a puppy.
Hi, Tasha. Hi, baby girl.
She's getting a little gray. She's getting a little gray under there.
Little
bits.
There's a little bit of gray in the beard, kind of like you and my husband. Actually, my husband's beard is entirely gray.
Is it? Nice. That's spectacular. That's awesome. So Kelly, I hope you enjoy the games this weekend.
Yes. Except for the one against you, right?
Except for the one that I'm attending on Saturday evening in Columbus. And boys and girls, thank you for joining us. As always, I hope you enjoy the games as well. Cheers, everybody. We will see you back here next week. That works. Good night, everyone.